Guys, I want to let you in on some actuarial thinking today. I think this is going to be a good little Medicare minute. So let me ask you a question then. How should you determine what Medigap plan you write on if all benefits are standardized? And then beyond that, won't all carriers' premium for that plan end up the same if you live an average age of life? Now, that sounds logical because we're talking about the same coverage with the same traditional Medicare underneath and the same aging curve that you apply to a policy. But by the time a client hits an average age of death at 80, shouldn't every premium then roughly convene if all carriers have very similar profit margins? Well, the short answer is no. I'm going to go into this video and kind of bring and flush it out on an actuarial level. Hopefully this will be high level content for some of you guys. This is Ansel with probably a 7 or 8 minute Medicare minute, and let's hop right on into it. So all Medigap plans are standardized A through N, which means they have to offer the same minimum benefits, but they all don't have the same actuarial strategy. I mean, you could tell that to a carrier who, in my state, closed their block of business last year, and now they're projecting by the time you're 80, your premium will be over $1,000 a month. That type of pricing is driven by the risk pool behind their strategy. So two carriers can start out with identical turning 65-year-old pricing, but within 5 years, those blocks have already started to divulge or diverge from each other. It's a better word. Now, why? Because Medigap pricing is not per individual. If you could do it per individual, you would save a lot of heartache. You can't. You got to do it by block or by pool. And those carrier blocks evolve over time. Now, healthy people are going to lapse way differently than unhealthy people, right? So if you've got a carrier that's raising their rates faster than other carriers, developing a reputation for taking larger increases than other carriers on an open block of business, or they are attracting the lowest price sensitive buyers in the market, those healthiest members tend to leave those plans first. And who stays? Well, obviously, the people with ongoing Medicare needs or medical needs that can't pass underwriting to go to another carrier. What this does is that shifts that carrier's block morbidity upward. And higher morbidity means higher claims, which means higher rates, which in turn brings lapses healthy people. And that's a snowball effect, right? Once it starts, it's really tough to reverse it. Now, not all carriers design their rate curves the exact same. You know, you've got different pricing strategies, attained issue community. You've got carriers who enter with very competitive rates at 65. You've got carriers that accept thinner early margins or plan for steeper increases over time. You've got carriers that start higher at 65 and aim for smoother increases over time. And both strategies can be actuarially sound depending on who is selling and who's taking the policy. But by the age of 80, which is the average age of death for a male-female, those slope decisions have started to compound, right? So two clients who started at a similar premium could be hundreds of dollars apart later in life. Even though they're on the same standardized plan G, they have a different trajectory. All right, so what does all this compounding information tell us? It tells us for a Medigap carrier that the distribution channel matters. So if we've got a MedSup carrier who's dominating direct mail senior leads, is heavily promoting themselves as the lowest price plan, whatever, in whatever zip code that a senior lives in, or if they're becoming the go-to late switch option because they've got easy underwriting, they're going to attract a very different population than a carrier that enforces strict underwriting discipline or is planning for long-term stability and is controlling their broker channel growth, right? That will shape the morbidity fingerprint that's on the block the carrier currently has. And once that fingerprint forms, the pricing's going to follow it. So yeah, you'll hear a plan G is a plan G, just pick the cheapest. And in some cases that works, especially if you know, listen, I don't have that many years to live. Or if you live in a birthday anniversary rule state, there may be some truth to that, but that's incomplete advice at best. The real variable isn't the standardization or the benefit of the plan. It's the block's management behind the plan. So by the time you turn 80 or your member turns 80, the question isn't, I don't even remember what my starting premium is. It's gone up 5 or 6 times since that. The question is, how how disciplined was the carrier in managing its risk pool over the past 15 years? Because that ultimately will determine the stability of the block. Standardized coverage does not create standardized equal outcomes over the lifetime of a Medicare supplement. A Medicare supplement is on purpose. It's a longer duration actuarial product than a Part D or an MAPD. And if you want to give your clients real strategic advice, I would not recommend just comparing today's rates. I would evaluate the carrier's history of managing their closed blocks and their current open block over time, because that's the part of Medigap that you rarely hear about. You go on YouTube right now and all you're going to see is, here's the top 5 Plan Gs or Plan Ns I recommend. And it's all the same carriers that you've heard of that are probably sponsoring whoever the person is that's talking about it, or that person's looking to just grow their channel.